I am shook by the books that I read this week. One of them in particular, you have to hear what happens. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to wrap up all the books that I read this week and the books that I am still currently reading. I will have an extra video that comes out either this Tuesday or the following week, depending on when I get all the books in, because I did a lot of trading for books off my Amazon wish list. So I'm just letting them pile up over here until I get them all in, and it's going to be just an extra video that comes out. That's not one of my weekly wrap-ups, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Also, make sure that you like and subscribe. Always comment below. Let me know your thoughts on the books. And also, definitely go to the description box below. My Patreon is there, my Pango Books account, my Instagram, and my Goodreads if you are interested in any of those links. So, let's get into this week's books that I read, because you guys, there's one book that literally shattered my heart and put it back together again. So I can't wait to share that with you. But the first book that I had ended up finishing is The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa M. Matlin. Now this book follows she's like an influencer. She wrote a book about, marriages and how to, make it better. And she's kind of got a huge following. She's a therapist that helps people with marriages, and they're in Australia, but her marriage is crumbling. So she's kind of like a fixer. She wants to buy this house. It's a murder house. 40 years ago, a guy ended up killing his wife, trying to kill his daughter. The daughter did get away, and then he ended up, harming himself. And so it's no one has lived there at all. Nobody wants to move in there. It's called Blackwood House. And so she buys the house. She's like, if me and my husband fix this house up, maybe it'll fix our marriage, because she doesn't want people to know that her marriage is crumbling, because she gives marriage advice. She counsels, married couples through their tumultuous times. So she's kind of hiding that. But as we go through this book, whenever her and her husband move into this house, weird things start happening. You definitely get a glimpse into her past, into her husband's past. They have things that they're hiding, and you slowly get to know what they are, what they're running from. You also learn about the townspeople who aren't as very friendly as you would assume in this small community. And as we're going along and she's in this house and they're doing these renovations, the book becomes creepier and creepier in the fact that every time we hear the inner thoughts of our female main character, she is becoming more and more paranoid, more and more delusional. We don't know what is true, what is not true. So this book was definitely a wild ride. It's a thriller, but it has some horror elements put in there. I wouldn't say that it's a spooky book, but to me, it was a little on the spooky side, only because I don't really read, these type of books, and especially horror, I really don't read. So I definitely found it quite fascinating. I definitely was turning the pages, wanting to know what was going on in this house, what was making the townspeople, not necessarily want them as neighbors. Why is her husband just never home? What is going on with our girl, and why is she believing all of these things? There's these weird notes that come around everywhere. The townspeople are lying to her. Her cat is definitely getting sick, so she thinks someone's poisoning, her cat. You guys, it's a wild ride. I absolutely enjoyed this book way more than I thought I would, because like I said, I typically don't read thrillers, and definitely not horror, So whenever you have both of those mixed in together, I didn't think that I would like it, but I am very happy that I did make this my book of the month pick, and that I did give it a try. Of course, there were a lot of parts in this book that I found myself not really being invested in. I felt like there were a lot of slow moments that really didn't necessarily need to be in there per se. But I'm not an expert at thrillers, so I could be entirely off. But I'm just still happy that I read it. It's only like 288 pages, I think. So it was a very quick read. I think whenever I sat down, within a couple hours, it was done, and, I just found myself flying through the book. It did take me a couple sessions of sitting down and reading this because I would dive in and out of it because I was getting a little spooked out at certain points. But overall, once I finally sat down and I just read it to the end, I was shocked. I was shocked at the revelation at the end. I was shocked at what all our female main character was going through, what she was saying. I was like, girl, you need to get out of that house. Like, why are you still there? Like, to me, I was sitting there the whole time being like, why are you in this house? Why are you continuing to stay here? And I understand that they sunk all their money into it and she really didn't know anybody in the area. But I couldn't find myself believing the fact that she would stay there as much as she was. There was just a lot of elements of it that wasn't believable. So, that kind of took me out of the story. I gave it a 3-star. I didn't necessarily need everything to be believable, but I just needed some aspects. Like, she never wanted to leave the house. She was like, I'm not ever moving from here, even though all these bad things were happening to her, to her cat, to her husband, to literally everyone. So 3 stars. I'm really happy I read it. If you love thrillers and if you love them with some little horror aspects to them, definitely pick up The Stranger Upstairs. It will be a wild ride, and the ending I didn't see coming, but again, I don't really read thrillers, so you may be able to see that, but it was a twist and turn of events. So definitely, get this. And it also had, let me see if I can find it. It also had some, newspaper clippings in here that was really neat because you're getting the newspaper clippings and then you also get, because she blogs online, and you get kind of her blog as well. So I really liked the mixed up media that you get in there, but see, you definitely get some newspapers. That's her blog. And then here is the newspaper clipping. So it's really, really neat. So as you're going along, you are seeing what is happening in the future. And then after the newspaper clippings, you revert back to our girl, and it keeps dating, and so how much longer you have until you finally know what actually happened. So again, it was really, really good. Definitely give it a try if you love thrillers, if you want something that gives you a little bit of spooky vibes and stuff, and that's a quick read. The Stranger Upstairs, definitely worth it. So that was definitely a wild ride for me. The next book was an even wilder ride that I ended up choosing off of my TBR cart, and that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. Now, I will be very honest, I didn't think I was going to like this book. I had kept putting it off because I wanted to read it. I wanted to give it a try. It came in one of my book box subscriptions last year. So I was like, I'll just read it next month, and then I'll read it next month, and I just kept putting it off. And then finally, I started seeing some booktubers that I follow. They started reading this book and started raving about it. They were like, this is an amazing book. It has gothic elements to it. It's a fantasy and all of these things. And I was like, okay. I put it on my TBR cart to read by the end of the year. I was like, I'm definitely going to get to it in the next couple of months. And then, I don't know, after I got done with The Stranger Upstairs, I was like, I need something that keeps those vibes going. It is October. It's spooky season. So what better than a gothic fantasy? So I picked it up, And you are following our female main character, and she is in this world where the magic is like a tarot card system, where you wield these tarot cards depending on which one you have is depending on what magic you can wield. Now you have all of these different ones. You have one that's called the Maiden that's supposed to make you a lot prettier. You have the Nightmare card, which, does one thing. I mean, just so many different tarot cards. But you also have this thing called the Mist, and you find out the lore about that, but this mist has taken over this entire area, and you have to get I don't know how many cards it is, but so many cards of the deck to put back together to kind of basically banish the mist away, and make it back to your once kingdom that you had. So our girl was sick whenever she was a kid. Now, a lot of kids would get sick with like a flu type virus, and whenever they survived it, they came out with having some magical abilities. Now, whenever the kids would come, out of the flu virus, they would be taken to the castle, and you never hear from them again. So you think that they go into the dungeon, that they get killed off. You just don't know what's going on. So our girl was like 11 or 12 years old. She came down with the flu virus. Her father, who was the general of the people that were rounding up the children, hid her away, sent her off to live with her aunt, didn't tell the king or anything. He wanted to keep her safe. So whenever she came out from the flu virus, she didn't have any magic. And we learned that she has something inside of her. She can hear somebody talking, and she doesn't tell anybody because she's like, I do not want to be taken. I don't want people to think I'm crazy. So she lives with this for like 10 years and not telling anybody. And the banter between her and whatever this is in her head was quite hilarious throughout the book. I absolutely loved it. The thing in her head is not necessarily good. He's not comedic. He is somewhat evil, but she calls on him to help her whenever she is kind of in a dead situation, like she's gonna die. So he comes in and he helps her. So as we're following her, she is going to the palace. She meets this guy named Raven, and I'm going to tell you right now, Raven is one of my favorites right now. He is amazing. He's brutal. He's alpha, but he's sweet and a marshmallow, like everything, in between. So her and Raven start teaming up, and he's part of the Destriers, who are the group of people that find the kids that have magic and puts them away. So she's reluctant to tell him the truth that she had the flu, and even whenever she does tell him that, she still keeps, whatever's inside of her a secret. But then we find out Raven's secret, and then we start finding out about this band of misfits of the Destriers and what they're doing. And so now our girl is sucked in to this wild ride, and I again didn't think I was gonna like this from what I had read on the synopsis in front of the book. I ate this book up. Like, after the first couple chapters, whenever I got into kind of the groove of the book and the writing style and, our female main character, I was hooked. I couldn't stop listening. I am definitely going to be picking up the second book because this is a duology. I'm going to be picking up the second book as soon as possible. It's called Two Twisted Crowns, and this is the Fairy Loot edition, so I am definitely going to be picking up the Fairy Loot edition of Two Twisted Crowns whenever it becomes available, because I'm obsessed. I am so obsessed. And if anybody has been on the fence with this book because of the magic system or the gothic elements, or you didn't think that you were going to like it because of the synopsis, if you like fantasy romance and you like your gothic elements and you like a unique magic system that isn't, found in all of these books, and you absolutely love, an alpha male and you want a swoon-worthy boyfriend, pick up this book. The romance is absolutely stunning. The book is great. I loved the pacing and the plot. There were a couple parts that I was just kind of like, I think we could have skipped past this, or this was a little too long. So I did give this 4 stars, but it's a very strong 4 stars. I just couldn't stop. I was like, I am here for this ride. I'm here for this. Like, we're definitely going to be taking back the kingdom. We're going to be getting all these tarot cards. We're going to banish the mist away. And then the ending came, and I did not see that ending coming. It was quite the cliffhanger. I am kind of glad that I ended up putting this book off until now, because now the Two Twisted Crowns just released a week ago, maybe, week and a half ago, and I'm glad I don't have to wait to know how this ends, because that ending, I just sat there and I was like, no way did this just happen. No way. So, again, I'm so happy. I cannot wait to get back into the story to find out what our girl's getting up to, what Raven is doing, how we're going to be taking down whatever this thing is, which I can't even say. What's going to happen to our girl? Is she going to come out of this alive? Is the romance still going to be there? I don't know. But I can't wait. I can't wait. So then after that, I was on such a high, right? Just such a high. And I was like, okay, I need to read something that's going to be kind of a palate cleanser, because I know that there's no way that the 3rd book I pick up is going to be a hit. So I started reading some of my Blood Union Part 1 by Vila Roth. I am like almost halfway through it. Like I said, I'm going to be diving in and out of this book, because as much as I love Leo and Cassia, as much as I love Orthros, and as much as I love all of these characters that are in this story, there's only 7 books out right now, and this is the 5th book. If I read this book and I start book 6, which is Blood Union Part 2, that means I only have 1 more book until she comes out with book 8, which I do believe book 8 should be coming out sometime in the next 6 months. I haven't really looked up to see when the set date was. I thought it was going to be this year, but I think maybe I read somewhere that it was going to be early next year. So I don't want to rush through it and just be wanting and desperately, wanting to know what happens, because it always leaves on a cliffhanger and I'm always wanting to keep going. So I'm just going to keep, dipping my toes in, getting a little bit of, a 5 or 10% read in here or there. So I still haven't finished Blood Union Part 1. I really don't think I'm going to be finishing it before the end of October. I'll be very honest with you, but that's okay. I did not start reading it in hopes that I would get through it. So you're probably going to keep hearing me talk about this book for quite a while. And then after I kind of had a little bit of a night off and decided to just kind of read a little bit of Leo and Cassia and find out what's going on with our Hesperines, what's going on in Orthros and everything else, I was like, okay, what book am I going to read? And I woke up, I don't even know what day it was, the 24th, whenever that was, Tuesday, I think. I woke up and I had an email. And it said, your pre-order is ready to download. And I was like, what pre-order? Entirely forgot that A Curse for True Love came out on the 24th of October. So whenever I opened up my email at like 5 a.m. as I'm getting ready to get my workout done for the day, right? So I can get ready and get to work by 7. I was like, wait a second. A Curse for True Love is out today? Okay. So I immediately downloaded it and started listening to it, because I was like, I need to know what happens with Jax and with Evangeline, and I need to know how this story is going to be wrapped up. So I started listening to it, and I read it in 1 day. I couldn't stop. I had to know what happened to them. So this is going to be a little spoilery, you guys. So if you do not want to be spoiled for A Curse for True Love, definitely fast forward. a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit of spoilery, so I'll try to put the time right here of where you can go to hear the non-spoilery. So I'm going to give you just a few moments. Okay, let's talk about A Curse for True Love. So if you are still listening to this at this moment, you don't mind having spoilers, you don't mind me talking about it, maybe you've already read it and devoured it like I did. The story with Evangeline and Jax is wild. We pick up right where we left off. Her memories have been stolen by Apollo. She has no idea what's going on. She's confused. She's scared. She doesn't know how she ended up, being married to a prince. The last thing she remembers, I believe, is whenever her father died. I think is the last memory she has. So she has no idea about the wedding that she tried to stop at the beginning and, whenever she first met Jax and asked for his help. She doesn't even remember everything that she's went through with Apollo being cursed with the Archer's curse and her time with Jax and all the characters that she met along the way. And I felt so heartbroken for her. Like, I was like, girl, like, you are missing out on so much of your life that you don't even know. Like, how are we going to get that memory back? So, our girl, she tries. She tries to believe Apollo. And, Apollo's like, Lord Jax, is the one that stole your memory. And let's find him. There's wanted posters everywhere for him. And, our girl doesn't know that Jax is also the Prince of Hearts. Has no idea that those two are the same. So she's scared of Lord Jax. She's like, does Lord Jax really look like that? And, asking questions about him here and there whenever it does come up. She, gives Apollo basically the benefit of the doubt and starts trusting him. She goes up to the top of this spiral tower with him to overlook certain things and ends up kissing him. But she knows that it feels wrong. But, she kisses him because she's like, he's handsome and he's my husband, basically. And then you find out Apollo has very nefarious, things that he wants to do. People on his council are trying to tell him that he needs to create an heir with Evangeline, and he's trying to be the good guy. Can you be the good guy right now? I don't know. But he's trying to wait until she's ready, I guess. And this whole time, he is creating things to put Evangeline in danger, to prove to her that she is in danger. So then she's reliant on Apollo and trusts him. Like, dude, you've got issues, honestly. And so he has her being pushed into a well, and then the two guards that he has pushing her into the well, he has them executed. Like, they did what you asked, and then all of a sudden you're killing them because they did what you asked as the prince. So I don't know. I just feel like, Apollo is going about everything very shady. He keeps always saying he wants to keep Evangeline safe. He wants to, make sure that everything's good with Evangeline. He wants to do all of these things. You're doing the complete opposite. You're putting her in danger. You are basically forcing her to love you because you took all of her memories away. But then we find out that Aurora Valor, the one that, had wrote at the Hollow, Aurora plus Jax, that Aurora is actually in love with Jax. So she helps Apollo, gives him the potion to take Evangeline's memories away. She is the one that constantly keeps pointing out things about Evangeline, like all of a sudden she has Jax's dagger. And, Evangeline doesn't even know that it is Jax, who calls himself Archer, who is one of the guards or whatever. She has no idea that that's actually Jax. And so Apollo is starting to see, he has people meeting with her daily to see if her memories are coming back. But every time she's around Jax, who is posing as Archer, she keeps getting like these funny feelings back. They're very fuzzy. Some of the memories are a little bit distorted, but she's starting to get them back every time she touches him. And so she's starting to realize, like, whenever she's around Archer, that her memories are coming back. So she ends up learning that Lord Jax is actually Archer. So she is terrified because she thinks that, you know, he's going to steal her memories away. He's going to take her. And she runs to Apollo to tell him. And all of a sudden, like, Lord Balin, or whatever his name is, he tries to kill her because she had killed Petra, and she doesn't even remember who Petra is. And then you have Aurora Valor, who's, you know, kind of putting her in danger as well, trying to get her out of the way. And then she tells Apollo, and Apollo is, you know, like, okay, we need to find Lord Jax. Well, then all of a sudden, like, Evangeline just gets this feeling that maybe things are not as they seem, right? So she ends up meeting up with Jax. Things happen. She finds a letter that Jax has been carrying around, which is a letter that she wrote to herself at the beginning of book 2. Where she's like, do not trust him, do not trust his, you know, blue eyes. And all of a sudden, all of her memories come rushing back. All of them. And she remembers everything, even what Apollo did to her. So now she is all about Jax. And, you know, Jax has put this gold bracelet on her. And you guys, at this point, I am just like, girl, you got your memories back. Run and get your man, right? Like, he's your true love. You know this. And Jax. Let's talk about Jax for a second. So he puts this thing on her wrist that basically is like a protection. So anybody that is going to intentionally harm you, it will cause them great pain and they won't be able to do it. So all of a sudden, you know, Jax tries to kiss her. Chaos ends up saving her, tells her what's going on, fills in the blanks about, you know, all this other stuff. Jax basically blames himself because he thinks him going back in time erased Evangeline's memories. He has no idea that Apollo did it. And then you have Apollo, who finds out about this tree, and Wulfric Valor tells him, if you value your life, you won't even be looking into this tree. Basically, this tree will make you immortal, but it will take away the one thing that you love the most. And so now Apollo is on a mission because he feels like he needs to defeat Jax and keep Evangeline. Evangeline is trying to find Jax, who gave his heart away. So guys, things are just like coming, and I'm like, what is going to happen? My heart is beating fast. I'm like, you know, we're in the last like 100 pages, and I'm like, Stephanie, what are you doing to us? There can't be another book. How are you going to wrap this up? I was frantic, okay? And then we finally end up finding out that Aurora has Jack's heart, not the one that keeps you alive, but the one that makes you have feelings. But Jax came back and stole it. And she's like, well, why would Jax come back and steal it? And she's like, well, of course, so no one else can get it. So she's speaking of Jax going to destroy his heart for good, so he never has to worry about emotions again. So now our girl, she's like, I gotta go save my man, right? So she finds him at a phoenix tree, where a phoenix tree is a tree that until it fully blooms in gold, if you pick a leaf off of it too soon, the whole thing will go up in flames. So he is going to the phoenix tree to basically burn his heart and kill it and be done with it. Evangeline finds him. They have a moment, right, where she's like, it was Apollo that took my memories, and Jax is like, what do you mean? And then finally our girl basically goes, fuck it, and she kisses Jax. Doesn't care if she's gonna die, doesn't care about anything, and he says, you made a mistake, little fox. And he kisses her again, and they're hot and heavy, and I'm like, oh, what's happening? And she's getting dizzy, she's fainting, and so he's frantic because he thinks she's dying. And of course our girl forgot to breathe because she's so wrapped up with Jax. So now we have our happily ever after, right? Nope, we do not. So Apollo finds Jax and them under the tree. He takes Evangeline to the whatever tree it is of immortality. And basically, Wulfric and everyone show up. And then our guy ends up trying to basically get immortality. And so he tells Evangeline, I love you, I'm going to miss you, but I want this more. And Wulfric and his sons and everything are holding Jax back. And he's like, what are you doing? And then, of course, Apollo drinks from the tree. He thinks Evangeline's going to die. I'm not going to tell you what happens. However, we got our happy ending. You guys, we got our happy ending. Oh my gosh. Stephanie Garber ripped my heart out. Just ripped it out. And then put it back together. Oh, I absolutely love this series. One of my tops. So that was my spoilery review. Let's talk about the non-spoilery review. My top favorite series of all time. You guys, my top. It's not going to beat A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I don't think it's going to beat the Bargainer series, but it's in my top 5. It has to be. I devoured this book, couldn't stop, reading it. Of course, it's whimsical. It's fairy tale-like. A lot of things are just this is very childish. You have a girl that's just throwing petals everywhere she goes because she wants people to know where she goes and stuff. It's just out of this world, fairy tale-like, but it's so whimsical and so magical, and the vibes are just so insane. I feel like Stephanie Garber hit every mark whenever she made this trilogy, because it spoke to a bunch of people's hearts in many different ways. It's a fantasy romance. It's whimsical. It's fun. It's lighthearted, but it's also fast-paced. There's high stakes. And I think that many, many people are going to be reading this, and they are going to be shook at what happens. They're going to be shook at what Stephanie did. Stephanie ended up, tweeting a couple weeks prior to the release saying, I'm not going to promise anything. And you know what, Stephanie? You delivered. You didn't promise anything. You didn't promise us a happy ending. You didn't promise us a bad ending. You didn't promise us anything, and I'm so happy for that, because I went in fearful. I went in hoping. I went in with a lot of feelings, and I'm so happy I did, because it made the story and the stakes and the plot and our characters just so much more worth it. That's how I feel. And then at the end of the epilogue, there might be more books in this world. And I'm okay with that, Stephanie. I'm okay with that. That's what I'm going to say. Pick it up. That's all I'm going to say. Pick up A Curse for True Love. If you read Once Upon a Broken Heart and you read The Ballad of Never After, stop watching this video and go get it. Just go. Because it is by far the best. So finally, of course I gave that one 5 stars, right? So finally, those were all the books that I have read. And then, of course, I am still reading Blood Union Part 1. The last book that I did start reading was not on my TBR cart at all, and it wasn't in the video. But I just couldn't wait any longer to read this book. I was going to be buddy reading this with a friend, which unfortunately won't be happening now. So I decided to pick it up and just go with it, and that is Role Playing by Kathy Yardley. This book is so fun. I am probably 60 or 70% of the way through, so I'll probably finish it this weekend at some point. But it is following our 48-year-old Maggie, and she is kind of a hermit. She's an introvert. Her son is off to college. She doesn't really like to socialize or go to gatherings or anything. She's been divorced for about 5 years. She works at home, kind of editing books and essays and different things like that. And secretly, she likes to play video games and everything. So her son makes a deal with her that if she gets more social, then he'll become more social, because he's kind of an introvert like his mother. And she agrees to the deal. So she goes to a book club or whatever. not her thing, but she shows a picture. Well, then she ends up talking to someone else, and they are talking about this guild online, and she's played the game, and she's very, knowledgeable of the game, and she gives her email address, ends up joining this guild where she's socializing with people. And all of these are like community college kids, not teenagers, but like in their 20s. So, she goes in with the name Bog Witch because, of course, she's like 48, and she's like, I'm old enough to be your mom or your grandma. Like, we're not going to do this. We're going to play games, right? Then you have Aiden. Aiden is a 50-year-old guy who moved back home. His ex-fiance ended up leaving him and then marrying his cousin or his younger brother. It's one of the two. It's weird. So, of course, Aiden is like, it's whatever. And his mother, basically makes a deal with him because she's kind of like in hospice care. She's not doing good. So he's wanting her to talk about her finances and kind of sign all of these documents to make things better. So she makes a deal with him that if he brings a date to the wedding, that his ex-fiance, who is now married to his cousin, is going to be there, then she will talk about all of this legality things that she has to talk about. So he agrees to this. And, he really doesn't go out of his way to try, but his name is Otter, and he's in this guild. And whenever Maggie joins, of course, she has no idea that he's 50. He has no idea that she's 48. He thinks that she's some 80-year-old girl because she keeps talking about, like, being everyone's grandma. And then he, or she thinks that he is like a 20-something-year-old guy in college. So, she's like, not gonna happen, dude, and of course he's like, that's not what I'm asking. I'm just saying thanks for being here. And then he ends up fracturing his foot. And so she ends up offering to go over to his house and kind of like drop off some food and see if he's taken care of. She's never met this guy. They've only played video games together. And whenever she goes to his house, she finds out that, Otter is not really a 20-something-year-old guy. He's 50, and he's like my age, and he's single and has his own place. And then, Aiden is like, wait a second, she's not 80, she's 48, and, funny to be around, and all of these things. So now things start going off from there. I am eating this book up. I would say that it's not as enjoyable as I thought it would be, but I am liking it because there are a lot of similarities to me and my husband because we met on a video game and about 12 years ago. And, we enjoy video gaming. We enjoy that lifestyle. We have friends online. We're in guilds. Just everything aligns to it being him and I. And we are kind of introverts and we like to stay at home. So, what better book to read than this, that I could connect with? The downfall that I'm having is I am actively into video gaming, and I did find my husband online on Xbox, and I did go through this. So some of the aspects are not entirely true. Some of the things that are talked about are not entirely true. So even though I know it's a work of fiction, like I should just be like, listen, this is a romance, okay? You need to just love the romance. It's hard for me because, again, it hits close to home because of how my life was. So, right now it's still like a 3.5 star, and I'm still enjoying it, and I want to know what happens. I, of course, know what happens, but we're getting to like the third act breakup part, right? So I need to know what happens and how they resolve it. But I would say that I had higher hopes than I have. I went into this with a 5-star hope, and I'm not getting close to that, and so it's kind of weighed me down a little bit, kind of put my mood down. And so before I pick it back up, I'm just going to love it for what it is. The writing is good, the story and the way that it flows is amazing, but I'm just taking some of the aspects that I should just overlook to more literal sense, I guess, because I'm like, I game online. I met my husband online, so like what you're saying is not true, or that can't be happening. Like, just different things like that, you know? So I need to stop because it's pulling me out of the story, because like I said, the writing is excellent. The way that the story flows and the way that, you know, Kathy Yardley has constructed this, you know, character and this dynamic system is excellent. And there is queer representation in here, which I absolutely love as well. And I really love how it's handled, and I love how both characters handle the situation. There is also talk of, you know, other forms other than bisexuality. There are, you know, talks about asexuals and demisexuals, I think, and, you know, just all the different types. And I really like how it's talked about. I like how it's portrayed, and I really think that it was done very well. So like I said, this book overall is really, really good and put together very well. I just need to get over my real life stuff. So I'm going to finish this book probably this weekend. It is cold where I'm at. The husband and I are just going to kind of sit in tonight, have some tacos, watch a movie, turn our heat on, because it's going to get quite chilly over the weekend and we don't plan on going anywhere. So I'm probably going to get quite a lot of reading done. But those are the books that I read this week. Let me know down below, which books have you read? Have you read A Curse for True Love? And what did you think of it? No spoilers, right, in the comments. But also, let me know, have you read One Dark Window? Did you end up loving it as much as I did? And, you know, like I said, always go to my description box below. Connect with me on Instagram. Follow me on Goodreads. Join my Patreon and, you know, become one of the members to join our book club. And then again, go to Pango Books. You know, I'm definitely going to be having The Stranger Upstairs on there pretty soon for sale if you would like to get that. I try to put them at really low cost because I'm not out to try to make money. I want them to go to a good home. So if you ever want to go to my Pango Books account and browse or follow me on there, because also I will put books up randomly at different times, and so you can get notified every time that happens. I am going to be putting up a lot of books this weekend, so make sure you go and follow me on there so you can see all those books. But next week, I will be back to talk to you about books that I have read, and I hope I have another stunning week. I know that Being Henry is coming out by Henry Winkler, and I can't wait for that to come out. I know that Iron Flame is right around the corner, and I can't wait to read that. I want to read The Shepherd King. There's so many books I'm looking on my TBR cart right now that I just want to get to. Why can't we just stay at home and read books all the time? Wouldn't that be great? But until next time, everyone, I hope that you are staying warm if it's cold where you're at, and definitely having a great weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye!